In Stop-Zemlia, it could often feel like you're learning so much yet so little as you watch the various teenagers go through the tumultuous time period between being high school age and at the brink of adulthood. In summary, Stop-Zemlia is about the senior year of multiple characters who are being interviewed by somebody who, for the most part, is off screen. As they're being interviewed, they're asked to talk about their mental health, relationships, how they feel about the future, and with that, it sort of triggers, as we watch the story, them having this experience where, with on the brink of having to worry about university exams, having to worry about bills, possibly going to the military, etc., they're trying to live these final moments of youth and sort of recap all the struggles that they've gone through thus far. And whether it's characters like Yana dealing with mental health and not just knowing the terminology of what anxiety and depression means, but actually being diagnosed and dealing with the stigma, there's Masha, who is, from what many say is normal, and possibly could be even considered unremarkable, in her trying to live this life where yes, she has friends, yes, she has a good family, yet she still has this sort of loneliness sense. While people like Yanya get to date, and from what we're told, Senior might be having intercourse with other people, Masha's here pretty much living vicariously through them and just taking what she can in terms of, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of seeing her friendships and that platonic love as a bit of a morphine for the romantic love and even sexual intimacy she can't get. So to give a quick character breakdown, Masha's our lead, and by many people's opinion, she's considered very normal and even to a certain point unremarkable. She comes from a two-parent household, has a little brother, she herself, she doesn't get into any trouble, has two best friends in Yana and Senya, who are, their relationship is so secure and the parents are so cool with it that they even allow them to have sleepovers, even though Senya's a boy. But there is a bit of a backstory to Masha we don't really get into, which deals with her being a former cutter. So as much as we see things are good, there's also this bit of darkness that doesn't fully get tapped, but you get enough of it to understand that when she's alone and her friends are out there either smoking, dating, or whatever, it's far more than just FOMO that she's feeling. Senya is both Masha and Yana's best friend, and he's dealing with a few things. There's some trauma from his father being unemployed and definitely a bit homophobic, but there's also this backstory that's not fully tapped into, which hints that wherever Senya's family is from or where they came from, there was a lot of violence, and because of that, with pre-conscription classes part of the Ukrainian education system, it seems, seeing guns, hearing the pull of the loading trigger and stuff like that, it definitely messes with his mind in a way that it kind of takes away from you just seeing him as this soft, calm, cool, and collected dude. For really, you understand that part of the reason why he smokes, part of the reason why he seems so calm and everything, is because compared to what he's gone through in the past, what he goes through right now is practically nothing. Next is Yana, and when it comes to Masha and Senya, she's probably the only one who seems to be dating and having a life outside the crew. And with that, you can see a sort of jealousy in some ways with Masha, just because she doesn't have access to that kind of life, and after some point, living vicariously just doesn't do it for her. But being that this group is a little bit fluid and definitely open to experimentation and exploring with one another, Yana is part of both Senya and Masha kind of figuring out who they are, what they like, and oftentimes she's the one that, well, not oftentimes, it's only like once or twice, but she is the one that initiates these two who can often feel very much stuck in their bubble, trying to understand and see what's outside of it. The last character we're going to mention is Sasha, and he's somebody that's going through his own types of change, but it's definitely a bit more minor compared to the other three. With Sasha, he's dealing with his mother, who is very much on him about their relationship deteriorating. And at the same time, he's also dealing with Masha, who has feelings for him, and other people know this, but being that Sasha's in this frame of mind where it seems like relationships isn't a top priority for him. It's If you watch the movie, you'll understand where it goes between him and Masha, but with the impression you get off of him is that he just wants to have fun, and then when it comes to relationships and all that, it might be something that with the right person he's down for, but otherwise it's too much of a job on top of all he's going through in order to take this additional thing on. Our first highlight is just how it takes the mundane that we've perhaps forgotten about our own lives and reminds you of it, rather than presenting the usual sensationalized view of what being a young adult or teenager is with drugs, sex, parties, and all that stuff. And one of the reasons we really appreciate this is because, as Roman Blanchard said in a Refinery interview, we often forget when you're a teenager, everything is literally happening for the first time. Growing up is dramatic, it's emotional, it's sad, and it's really amazing. And for a lot of us, once we hit a certain age, we build up a tolerance to a lot of that. We have a bit of a callous to it, and it makes it so when we're reintroduced to it through either younger siblings, cousins, family members, kids in our lives, in whatever way that they come into your life, you look at them and it seems very dramatic. It seems almost foreign, like they're overreacting, yet as we see with Stop-Zemlia, it's not that they're being overdramatic or even, performing for attention or anything like that. You're dealing with a tidal wave of emotions, one after the other. You have these people who are adults, the people who for most of your life have been guiding you, looking out for you, pretty much gaslighting you. And on top of that, you have all these people going through the same thing, and of course, some of them can relate, some of them even try to help you, but there's only so much people can do externally when all the storm is inside yourself. And I feel that with Stop-Zemlia, you can see that with Masha, Senior, Yana, and even Sasha, that everything going on is just overwhelming, and it seems no matter who's around, what they try to do, or even what you try to do, nothing stops it in that moment. All you can do is just figure out ways to weather the storm, and hopefully through your experience build a better way to deal with it the next time it hits, or when something similar hits, you can be more prepared than you was when the first wave went over. The second highlight stems from one of the quotes you just saw when it comes to Masha and one of the final statements she makes in the film. As noted in the film summary, everybody's being interviewed by this person off camera, and Masha, being a lead character, she gives the most poignant statements in regards to what we're going to call not being paralyzed for analysis. It's something that we read in Will Smith's book that unfortunately we haven't finished yet, but it's definitely apt for what Masha is talking about. She presents two important quotes. One is, "I'm not there anymore and I'm not there yet. I'm here and I should use that." And that pretty much summarizes a lot of what she's going through when it comes to this story in the movie. She is no longer the girl who had issues with cutting, mental illness, and needed to go to therapy by her mother's command. That's who she used to be. But at the same time, even though she's better than she was, she's not in a place where she wants to be yet. She's not the girl who goes on dates on a regular basis. She's not the girl who knows that she's going to end up in university or be in university and flourish. She is here, and she can use everything she learned in the past in order to have an effect on the future. She can use all the trauma and all the issues that she had in the past to know when these new stresses come into life, when she's at the point of dealing with, she's in Ukraine, so college debt might be less of a thing than it is in America, but in terms of studies, in terms of pressure from instructors, she can use all the stresses that she had internally or else from other sources as a younger person and apply the way she found healthy ways to deal with that when it comes to all the things we just mentioned. And following that, there's also another quote that we used or that we noted, which is, "I can't do it anymore," or "I can't do it yet." In that mind frame, you can kind of see her going from focusing on what's making her anxious at the time, be it boys, be it her friendship, maybe feeling a bit of FOMO, if not kind of questioning what's next for her, and she can look at it in two different ways when it comes to her life. I can't do it anymore could apply to she cannot maintain this sense of stagnicity, and dwell on this one issue when there's so much more going on, and pretty much either put her head in the sand or just keep circling the same issue over and over again with the same consistent and worrisome thoughts and ideas. But on the other end of things, she can also think of, I can't do it yet. And I can't do it yet means I'm capable of it, and while I may not have it at this time, it's something that can be put in my future. So one pretty much leads into the other. I can't do it anymore is the trigger of overthinking, and then I can't do it yet means building yourself up to what you want in order to eventually obtain it and be that person. And in a way, it's one of those types of things where even if you're no longer a teenager or even a young adult and you're pushing 30, 40, 50, etc., you can kind of relate to this feeling of not knowing what's next, yet having all the stuff in your past that makes you feel like your future is set in stone, that your fate has been sealed, all the things you did that were wrong, all the things that you could have done better, that has pretty much made it so you cannot change your life. But taking what Masha said, you can't do it anymore is simply you can't stay on this path. You can't stay in this relationship, job, or anything. And then you transition to I can't do it yet in terms of I may not have this right now and I can't do it yet, but I am bettering myself in order to obtain it. And it creates a universal mantra, for lack of a better way of putting it, that you can harness and use in order to move yourself forward no matter what age you're at. In terms of on defense, there's only one on defense topic, and that's just while we get to know those four characters that we've been mentioning thus far very well, when it comes to a lot of Sasha's friends and associates, you get enough to catch their name, enough to get their personality, maybe nail down what they look like, but as much as you get a good sense of who they are and you feel like you can get these litany of perspectives, experiences, and more, unfortunately, by the time the film is over and maybe like an hour or two pass, you would struggle to pick them out in the lineup. It is not to say that any of these characters are written badly or perform badly, but it's more so, rather than make this an ensemble piece, we have Masha's our lead, we have two strong supporting characters in Jan and Senya, and then with Sasha being Masha's love interest, he gets a nice boost. Everyone else kind of fills out who's part of their class, and unfortunately, while they all are given enough so that you understand they have their own lives outside of Masha, Sasha, and the rest of them, it's not a life built up enough for you to truly want to grip onto what's going on in their life and forget the full story. It's just enough for you to get interested and to show you that they're individuals, but unfortunately not an individual enough for this film to want to, even throughout 2 hours, fully establish them in such a way that you can feel that their development was whole. While it's sometimes hard to grasp who is who when it comes to many of the supporting characters, there is no denying that every character, whether they are lead or supporting, brings an authentic and relatable experience to Stop-Zemlia. One that strays away from the more sensationalized versions of teens we often see, and rather than speak to those who had a tight group of friends, I would say that Stop-Zemlia tries to speak more to those people who felt lonely growing up in their adolescence, and even if they did have friends and family like Masha had, there was still a longing for things that while others would be so glad for what they perhaps don't fully appreciate, there's always that feeling of the grass is green on the other side. And I think Stop-Zemlia tries to tap into that rare opportunity that most people don't get so that they can feel seen as well.